you?
Good. Like you see me good?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. Do
All
you?
right, man. Like it's nice. It's nice to see you again. Like I haven't seen you in years. Like I saw you at Fight Quest maybe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It was my first MMA fight
Okay.
and amateur. I started training at this local BJJ gym in Gatineau,
Okay.
Evolution, and
Okay.
I was super a
Great
big
gym.
fan of MMA. And my brother was training. He was doing gi,
Okay.
and somebody talked about doing a amateur fight, and I was thinking like maybe I could do that. So I started to train a little bit more, and I did it first fight. And 1 month after, my buddy was a heavyweight who was fighting kickboxing, and
Okay.
I was just there for the fight camp. And then 24 hours before the fight, they said, "Oh, somebody dropped out, and they need a replacement exactly at my weight." So I was
Okay.
like, "Do you want to fight short notice kickboxing?" I was like, "I think I
Let's
have my
go.
mouthpiece, so let's go." So I did 2 fights amateur. At Fight
That's
Quest, it was
amazing.
a good organization to get experience and everything. And
Of course.
I mean, I
Well, look, like it's the OG like organization. Fight Quest was there when George wasn't even in the UFC yet. So Fight Quest was already existing. Like it was the number one amateur league to get all the UFC fighters and all the UFC legends of today. So the thing is, man, like Fight Quest has been around for who knows how long, but it's been there since the beginning of when there was UCC, TKO, and then like some of our people from Ontario and Quebec, like guys like of course David Loazo, there was Ivan Menjivar, there was Steve Vigneault, George St. Pierre, of course, there was Sam Stout, there was Mark Hominick, there was Chris Horodecki. So I worked with all these guys,
that's
but
crazy.
people don't know that Canadian MMA, we have some killers and we have legends, but people don't know because everybody's like overwhelmed with only George and George and
Yeah,
George. But George is an icon, but everybody has to look at the other icons that come from Canada too.
absolutely. I mean, Dana White and the UFC try to promote exactly that base of fighters from Canada,
Yeah,
Canada, Quebec specifically, also
yeah,
knowing that George is just one of the many talented fighters of this region. If you look at it marketing aspect, yes, Canada is like 35 million people. It's a
yeah,
smaller market than, let's say, China or USA,
yeah.
but it's such a good place to recruit talent and just hungry fighters, talented. And you look at a place like TriStar.
Yeah.
I've been there a couple of times. It's just like you see people from England, you see people from Eastern Europe traveling, knowing it's one of the best gym in the world. I mean, back then when I was starting, when I was 18 years old, they were talking about like Jackson Wink as one of the best with John Jones and everything like that. But as the second place and maybe a first place was TriStar, like worldwide, the
Well,
way
look,
they like
like
for us.
we got a reputation through not only it's not exactly the facility, it's the coaching staff, like it's the sparring partners, it's the amount of love and dedication and education which we get in that fight gym. Like I don't like to say gym because whenever people hear gym, like they think of weightlifting and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It's more of a martial arts dojo. Like it's a
yeah,
mixed martial arts dojo. So the thing is, due to Conrad Plau, like I don't know if you know who he is. He was the founder of TriStar, and
yeah,
he was one of the OGs, which threw himself into those waters saying back in those days to say how like let's mix up kickboxers with boxers with jiu-jitsu guys with judokas with guys that do muay thai, so we were a melting pot of all egos back, I could say, in the mid 90s or somewhat, and we were all egos, like it's all guys that do martial arts.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like we broke that stigma going, listen, it's not only, well, you're a boxer, like you have to go to boxing gyms. Well, you're a Muay Thai guy, you have to go to Muay Thai gym. We were one of the first to actually implement everybody which had a martial arts background. And if you were a fighter, well, so be it. Like we are gonna make that difference between the martial artist and the martial artist and fighter,
Yeah.
because there's two differences. There's martial artists and then there's fighters.
Yes.
So people don't understand that. Like they think, oh well, I'm a fighter, but you need to be a martial artist first.
Absolutely. It was a big debate. Like again, like when I was starting out, like the way like some people will say, I'm a prize fighter. I fight for money. And then George was like, no, I'm a martial artist. I started karate. It was a great way for me to go into this discipline and learn to stand up for myself, have confidence, and not get bullied. And
100%.
that's
Like I started in Kyokushin, and George started in Kyokushin. So a lot of people that tend to frown upon karate, Kyokushin, or whatever else style of karate, they should read a book, and like they should get informed, because a lot of great warriors, legends, champions come from basics and fundamentals of karate. So like I could name you a few, or else like we'll stay here all day.
yeah. I mean, probably the most famous is like Lyoto Machida. I mean,
Of
he was
course.
so successful in the UFC, and no, it's really like teaching you the fundamentals, like the structure of fighting. It's like if you take a martial arts, if it's BJJ or karate, or it could be so helpful for you as a fighter if you take it seriously, and if you add athleticism and natural talent. Well, it's just a bonus. But yeah,
Well, look, like it actually changes lives too. Like I could tell you something. Like, I'm at the TriStar West Island. I'm at Ferr facility, which I've been at the TriStar headquarters for many, many, many years. But now we've opened up the TriStar West Island, which has been open around 5, 6 years now. And I can say like I changed like a bit of my perspective. Like yes, I've worked with legends. I worked with UFC fighters. Like I worked with amateur champions. And now like I'm looking at like the regular person that just wants to change his life. Like the guy's got a 9 to 5, the guy wants to be in shape, the guy wants to have a story to tell at the office, or he literally just wants to feel alive again, like just not stuck in a rut, going to work, go
Mhm.
back home, go to Costco, and then
Yeah,
I go home. So I actually find like that role that people at first said, Coach, like it's so hard like to approach you because you have the reputation that you've been around legends and like you coach professionals. Yes, I do that, but I am open, and we're open to everybody, like Firas Sahabi is, like Xavier Aloui is, like myself. So you guys will be surrounded by some of the best on the planet.
absolutely. I mean, it really changed life. I mean, when you were talking, I was thinking about Cal Buchniak, who was a TriStar. I mean, he did
Yeah,
a couple documentaries on him. I mean, it's a guy who was in such a bad place, and it's just like a couple years later, he's a pro fighter and a
exactly.
completely changed mindset, changed life, changed man. And now he's successful doing what he loves, a straight
That's amazing.
path. I
Yeah.
mean, and he's a
Well,
talented
look,
guy. Like,
like I met Kyle years ago when he came to TriStar for I think a month or so, and I helped him out. Like I worked with him a tad bit, and we connected. Like we started to chit chat, and I didn't know his whole life story. But when you come from a rough past, we all try to approach each other, so we actually know. Like it doesn't matter like which specific past like we come from, but we feel each other.
yeah,
Kyle and I, like we've always like respected each other, and I helped him out at TriStar, and we still contact each other through IG and shoot the shit. And I know he just opened up a BJJ school or an MMA school.
nice.
I don't know where exactly, but it's pretty far, like in the States.
Yeah.
But I would have to get in contact with him. So if ever you guys are interested, like in a seminar or whatsoever, I have my master's in striking.
Nice. I mean, it's just talents like you as coaches is just
Thank
you're world renowned. I mean,
thank
if
you.
you're a fighter, you're thinking, I want the best nutritionist, I want the best sports psychologist, someone who can help me in my career. But really, I want the best coaches. And I'll fly to Montreal, I fly to Ireland or Japan to have the best coach. And
Yeah, well, look, like we've always said it. an athlete could go so far, a martial artist could go so far, but what makes a great warrior, a great champion, a great fighter is his team around him. So if he's surrounded by guys which actually give a shit about him and care about him for all the right reasons, then there's game plans. Look, I've been around this area for so long that I've seen many fighters in my life and great fighters. But what makes the difference between fighters and champions is the it factor of you know how to fight, but now you got to know how to win. And
Yeah.
how to win is have people like Firas Zahabi by your side, Greg Jackson, uh, guys that know the business, that are coaches, that they take the time to analyze your opponent, that they take the time to work on your faults, to take the time to work on your strengths. So that's what you need around you, and your sparring partners too, like play a big role. Because a lot of people think that sparring partners like are just there to get knocked around, but if you have a good solid team around you that actually give a shit about you and that know that you're going to war like next week, like let's just say, well, they'll be backing you up, win, lose, or draw, and not only to win, like to lose. So like that's what some people don't understand. Like they only see the winner, the winner, the winner, but at the end of the day, like these guys all lost, including George,
Mhm.
including guys like Ali. We all lost.
Yeah.
So, but we solid team around us that always supported us through injury, through ups and downs in our lives. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings.
Mhm.
We have girlfriends, we have girlfriend problems, we have family problems, we have health issues. So people have to understand that at the end of the day, yes, we are warriors, but we're fucking humans too. So
Absolutely.
you need a good group of people around you.
Yeah, it's relationships, and like you said, like some people, if they're around you, they'll care about you. They'll help you win and everything. Like a good sparring partner, a good training partner. If you're injured and your left arm is like out
Yeah,
of commission, they'll work around you and they like prioritize other techniques and everything like that. And like the coaches, like a good coaches, you develop a good relationship with them.
yeah.
They'll give you a certain like a tailored strategy for you that works well. Then they'll give you everything that you need in terms of the best way for you to utilize your advantages. Like
Look, like I read something a while back. It's like they say like a coach could not only make you better, excuse me, but he could change lives too.
yeah.
So you could have had a coach back then, like when you were in high school and
Hmm.
you were a pro football player, a track and field runner, a soccer player, and you will always remember what that good coach would have given you as great advice, even if you're an older man now, like if you're in your 20s and 30s. You will always remember that good coach that supported you. That's something I always going to remember, and I'm an old cat, and I still my coaches, which used to talk to me, like my boxing coaches, my soccer coaches, like my Kyokushin coaches. So
Hmm.
back in the day, like, and even till this day, like I'm close to, like I'm up there, like in age. And I can tell you that until this day, like I still remember some of them like giving me great advice, life advice. So a coach could actually change lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, talking about your background, basically.
Wow.
Uh,
Like 5 hours.
yeah. So, did you grow up in Montreal? Were you born here, or?
Yes. Yes, like I was born in Montreal. Like I grew up in the east end of Montreal.
Mhm.
And yeah, like I come from a blue collar, hardworking family, which worked hard all their lives, struggled like a lot of athletes. Like I had an uncle, which was a Golden Gloves boxing champion, 1967, I think. My father was a soccer player, and
Mhm.
then he became a professional soccer coach for the FC Supra, which then became the Montreal Impact in 1994.
Nice.
So I around a family of athletes, of sports people, and yeah, so I played soccer too. I was at high level in soccer, and then like I got the knack of martial arts. I always loved martial arts.
Mhm.
I love to combat, like not like the kata stuff, but I always like the training, like the rigorous training of combat.
Mhm.
So like I got into Kyokushin, knockdown Budo Karate, which was full contact Kyokushin Karate, which if you guys look it up, it's very brutal. Like it's a brutal form of fighting. And then I started following guys like from the K1 days, like Andy
Yeah.
Hugh, like Peter Ert, like Ernesto Hust.
Yeah.
So those guys like were my like I used to look up to these guys, and I even met Shihan Francesco Filho, which was a K1 champion back. I don't remember. I think '96 or something like that. Like I might get it wrong,
Mhm.
but yeah. And I used to watch these guys, and I met them, and I trained with some of them. So yeah, and then I got into boxing, kickboxing, and I met Firas Sahabi and George St. Pierre, and I became sparring partner for George, and then to make a long story short, because I could be here all day to talk about that, like I'll try to cut it short. Then I got injured after so many years of fighting and fights, you name it, Kyokushin, boxing, and bare knuckle fighting too. Then I got injured. I had several surgeries done, and Firaz opened me the doors, and he says, "Listen, I want you as a striking coach, like at TriStar Gym." I said, "What?" Like I was like, "Get out of here!" Like I'm a fighter. So then due to injuries, I said, okay, like I'm gonna hang it up and I'm gonna study the art of combat, but in striking. So MMA striking, Muay Thai, Dutch style kickboxing, boxing. So I mastered, well, didn't master because I still learn every day today, but I tried my best to be the best striking, mixed martial arts striking coach out there to adapt to your style, which I'm still doing till this day. And now it's my job. It's crazy.
Nice. It, it must be such a blessing to be able to live off your passion. And I mean, you talked about that transition from fighter to coach. Uh, what are the good, like, for someone who wants to coach eventually, like, it's a like older martial arts practitioner. He's coming to 30 and he
Well,
thinks
look,
about, oh,
well,
yeah.
look, like age like doesn't have really a thing to do with it. It's just matter of experience and a matter of what you're able to grasp. So if you're very analytical and you're very observant and you have a knack like for mixed martial arts, like let's just say, and you study this with passion and you're a student of the fight game. I still consider myself a student of the fight game, even with all the years like I've been in it. You cannot tell yourself that you know it all because we'll never know it all.
Yeah.
But the give you advice on like how to transition from fighter to coach is one, like you have to have the eye, you have to have a love for it, you have to do your homework, you have to like you have to give in the hours that people don't give in the hours, so the time that the guys go home, well, the coach has to stay there extra. So we're the first ones in the gym and we're the last ones out.
Yeah.
We got to have our fighters backs through injury, through wins, losses, through whatever. But the transition, it's not made for everybody. And to my opinion, I would rather go with a coach that already tasted battle and went to war and knows what it is to feel tired, hurt, fighting under a strenuous training camp, that he's injured, because a fighter that goes into a fight is never 100%.
Mhm.
He's hurt, he's
Yeah.
battered, bruised. So I know this because I went through this. So and when I know that some of the fighters that they talk about is, I understand them because I know how it feels. I understand when it's the third round and you're exhausted and you have nothing left to give. I've been in those situations. So as a coach, like I calm you down, I speak to you, and you got to go get what's down here, and then you let everything else go. Unfortunately, some other coaches, which are just as good, but
Mhm.
to my opinion, they miss that little edge if they
Mhm.
haven't competed themselves.
Yeah.
So they must be great strategists, great people, great trainers. But as, let's say, an MMA coach or a striking coach or a Kyokushin coach, a boxing coach, whatever coach that's in combat sports, you need to feel that, to feel battered up. You need to feel that experience, those nerves. Like before going into a fight, I'm pretty sure that when you went into it, like you feel excitement, fear, uh, insecurity, joy, love, hate, sadness. You feel all these emotions like in 30 fucking seconds. Now, I know how that feels because I've been through it, but
Yeah.
some other coaches haven't been through that.
Yeah.
But they're good coaches, but they're missing that. So I'd rather you go with a coach that understands that. So when he goes to war with you. Like he doesn't just watch you go to war. He goes to war with you.
Absolutely. In other sports, and even the MMA, like if you see a commentator that's like ex-fighter, you can hear it. You can like the experience, like the
Of
way like
course.
the UFC Dominic Cruz talk, the way Paul Federer talk, or Alain Juban. It's just like,
That's
oh
what that is the best, to my opinion, the best commentators that the UFC have. Like if we're speaking about the UFC, the best commentators are those guys without being biased, because some can be biased, but I'd rather have them commentate on a fight because they know what the hell is going on. Like if they're on their backs, like if they're in their guard, like if they're, like if they're getting rocked, they understand this, rather than a guy that's just a great commentator but's never been in those situations. So for me, it's like, yeah, dude, okay, like you just read your notes and like you're just repeating what you read. It's like stay home and relax and like just go have your beer. Like that. I see,
yeah,
like it's really annoying, like to me.
yeah. I mean, it's like the first thing you think about when you talk about this is Stephen A. Smith in the pandemic, just talking about like
No
it's like
comment. No
it's
comment.
crazy because you have legends and champions like Daniel Cormier, like
Exactly.
Olympic medalist wrestler,
Yeah.
you like UFC champion, but then he's retired. But then you have like Felders and Alain Juban that are active fighters. It's like,
Yeah.
why would you get it in someone that hasn't been in the sport?
I totally understand that. Look, like I could tell you, then there is, then there's stuff which we don't want to talk about. It's called politics.
Yeah,
So politics.
yeah,
There's politics in TV. There's politics everywhere. So, with no disrespect to Stephen A. Smith, right? I mean,
yeah.
he's a great commentator, but
It
that's
is.
all. Commentator. He
Yeah.
doesn't shit about being a fighter or a warrior. So he can commentate all he wants on basketball, football, soccer, fighting, boxing, because he probably studied his notes maybe 24 hours before he got on TV. But
Mhm.
he'll understand what it is to get kicked in the face.
No, I mean he was talking about Gaethje said about him like at one point he made a comment like in the Gaethje Khabib fight like Gaethje
Yeah.
was trying to stay at a distance to not get COVID. I was like, buddy, we're sweating and dripping blood in each other's face. This is not. But
The
anyway,
the ignorance that has been going on for these past 3-4 years
mhm.
is the charts.
Yeah,
Even with people that have been, and I'll say it, fucking brainwashed
yeah,
straight up. Been looking at people just bombarding them with information, which
mhm.
probably good information, bad information, false information, true information, but too much information
Yeah,
is not good.
yeah,
So now people, they distort a lot of information. Listen, like I kept on training. Why? Because I'm healthy and I want to stay healthy.
mhm.
So people that are making comments about stupidities like that, especially in combat sports. Listen, politics and religion, in my opinion, have no business in combat sports or in sports in general.
Yeah,
Politics and religion has no business to be in sports. Zero.
yeah. I mean, but it's there's always like implementation that we're kind of questioning, and but it's a business at the end of the day. It's an entertainment sport. It's not just who's the best fighter; it's who's the most entertaining, who can sell
Exactly.
the most seats. So
Which it's becoming deplorable now. Like I find, look, like I come from the era where martial artists were very respected. We had to, a lot of integrity. Excuse me, a lot of integrity. As you can see, like if you were a fan of George St. Pierre,
yeah,
George was one of the first to show up to press conferences with a suit and tie because he wanted to look like the hockey players, to make it look very professional. But before George went to press conferences, nobody dressed up in a suit and tie. Like it was just t-shirts, like
yeah,
tap out shirts, like it was jeans, right? But
yeah,
people don't know this. George was one of the first that actually introduced, mixed martial arts as not being a bunch of savages. Like, we were professional athletes, professional fighters. So he came in there with a suit and tie. So he brought a certain perspective to it. Yes, at the end of the day, we are warriors, but we want to show to the public, that we're athletes, that we're people that we don't drink, we don't smoke, we train close to 5, 6 times a week. So we're not criminals. Like, we're just combat athletes. That's it.
Yeah.
But
I
now
mean,
it's deplorable. Like, I find, sorry to
oh,
interrupt you, but like, it's just to answer like your question about, now it's an entertainment sport. So now, like, they go for the most clickbait. What happened with Adesanya and Drixus?
it's
Like,
ridiculous. Yeah.
I get it. I get it's going to sell a lot of tickets. What I don't like was getting Adesanya in the ring where he had probably a couple of drinks,
Mhm.
and like, he said some words which, to my opinion, a martial artist shouldn't say. Now, there was no race baiting whatsoever because they're two men, and like, they could say whatever the fuck they want. But at the end of the day, it's like, really, like, if you're a champion, conduct yourself as a champion. That's how I see it, because I'm an OG. It's like, ça, ça passe pas. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like we're gonna watch the fight. No need to turn into WWE. It's like we're gonna watch it.
Exactly.
There's no point
Well,
to it.
well, now it looks like the WWE, like, they purchased a bit of the UFC. So
Yeah,
I
big
guess
deal.
I guess we're going to be seeing more stupidity like that, which they think is going to sell more tickets. Which I know people love to watch garbage like that
Mhm,
before the fights. What
mhm.
I watch is how a fighter prepares himself for the fight, like, to show the human side to him, that as a family, he has a brother, sister, a kid, to see what he goes through in life. I'm going to get to the fight day. That's really interesting. That's the UFC embedded, right? So
Mhm.
that's. But now to get clickbait by calling your fellow warrior, because there's an amount of respect, like, as a martial artist, like, you don't call them names like that. Like, I don't approve of that shit. Like, some other people will say, "Oh, coach me," but it's entertaining. Nah, I don't. In my world, like, I don't find that entertaining.
Well, it's the thing is there's always been trash talking in a sense because there's an element of mental battle. Like when asked, Mike Tyson said, "Oh, what's the percentage of fighting that's mental and the other physical?" He said it's 90% mental and 10% physical because in terms of skills and body, my opponent is also in shape. The thing is, your body, the only reason it's there is to carry your brain, basically. And he said it's a thinking game, and boxing they call it the sweet science.
Yeah.
But exactly, like when you see two fighters respecting each other, there's no trash talk, and it's just like they talk about the other person's skills and they respect it, and they talk about their camp, and that's really interesting to us. And the way the UFC embedded is set up, we see the person's fighter, the family, and as athlete, we also want to be ambassadors. Like George
Yeah.
was implementing this dress code, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're not savages. I think.
Well, look. Like, I could say it this way: like, trash talking has been around since Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
It's been around as long as Muhammad Ali, but there were lines not to cross, and Khabib was one of the best examples. When you implement religion, family, and beliefs, and race, like, let's just say culture, that's crossing the fucking line.
Yeah.
But there has been trash talk for many years, and like I said, like, the greatest of all time in boxing, Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
was one of the first to ever do it, and one of the best. But the thing is, if ever you go back to the old footage, he never implemented insulting remarks towards women, family, probably even culture, and race. Like, that's a fucking no-no. In martial arts, that does not pass. But now, it seems like everything passes because we're in an era that's social media, that you can say and feel and think whatever the fuck you are. But I find it's disgraceful.
Yes, but we're in this age of the Jake Pauls and the YouTubers doing boxing events. But the thing is, the argument is like they're bringing more eyes to the sport, more money. they're making a killing, basically, kind of
Basically,
maybe rejuvenating that
yeah.
that sport boxing.
Well, look,
But
like I could say mostly like look like there's positives and negatives here. Like if we're gonna talk about Jake Paul, there's a big positive on Jake Paul because he's bringing eyes back on boxing because it's interesting now. The negative about it is that you're disrespecting guys that have trained all their lives to become a professional boxer, and then you get this YouTuber that talks a bit of shit, has good hands, trains well, has the means to have some of the best coaches around him, and he's making millions of dollars. While the guy that's coming out of like the slums that doesn't have much food, no training camp, but he does it on his own. So it's like a Rocky story with, like with all the money in the world. Like that's Jake Paul. But now, like you're taking away all the 10 years, let's say 10 years of hard work that somebody comes out from poverty, he gets to fight, he goes through the amateur realm, he becomes a champion, he becomes a pro, and then he has to go up the ranks. This guy wasn't even an amateur fighter,
yeah,
and he's a pretty good boxer, but you're not going to put him up against guys that are elite level boxers because they'll kill him.
yeah. I
But
mean,
there's a positive to him. But other than that, it's like I see, now it's a different realm. It's like attention, attention, attention. But he's smart, man. Plus, he's a good little boxer too.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, Dano, I was talking about how MMA was the fastest growing sport. UFC was getting up there with MLB, NFL, and NBA. And you look at one championship or Bellator, these promotions that are like 10 years ago, they were not that big. They were not like so popular on social media. And now they're these huge businesses. And I think like these entertainers and influencers, they want a piece of that. They want to show a video of them, boxing and doing pads and maybe hinting at a boxing event and I don't know, taking part of that
Well,
trend
look, like,
basically.
well, to my opinion, I find there is a plus to Jake Paul, and what I like and respect about Jake Paul is that he's putting a light and shining a light to MMA fighters, which, like you said, mixed martial arts like is a growing sport, like it's going close to the MLB, so and so. But now, Jake Paul has brought up a great point about it. It's like if we're up there with MLB and the NBA and the NFL, that they're making billions of dollars, but the organization is making billions of dollars. But what about the low tier fighter that became a professional fighter? Look, this is my example of it. When you're in the NHL, you're an NHL player, so you're rich, you're well off. When you're in the UFC fighter, you're the best on the planet, right? You're a UFC fighter, you're one of the best fighters on the planet, but you're making $15,000, and then you're making 20, and then you're making 22, and you're making 19 plus, and there's no sponsorships there because they don't allow that no more. So I can't comment on too much like on the money aspect because I don't know everything about it. But I've been in the game long enough, and I was in the UFC when like there was the Reebok deal and before that Reebok deal. So it's like when you're a UFC fighter, well, you're supposed to be rich now. Like so you're supposed to have a house, you're supposed to be well off. And some of these guys still have part-time jobs and still have full-time jobs, and they're picking garbage and they're cutting the grass and they're Uber drivers for fuck's sakes. Like,
It's crazy.
well, look, like on Saturday, like I don't know, like if you saw the fight, but there was Moreno against,
And
uh,
Doha?
yeah, exactly. Sorry, and he won the fight. He won his belt. He's a champion of the world. And then if you read his statement, for 2 years he was an Uber driver, being the number one contender in that fucking division. Which for me, it doesn't make no sense. You're one of the best fighters in the world, and you got to drive an Uber like to make ends meet. That's where I disagree with what's going on with the UFC. It's like that's why I respect guys like Jake Paul that are shining a light on that, saying, "Yeah, like you're in the UFC, like you're the best in the world, but you're getting what? A sweatsuit, a
Yeah.
couple of socks, underwears, or gloves. Big fucking deal.
Yeah. I mean, 10 and 10 for a fight, if you win, it's just like,
Fucking
I don't know how
ridiculous. You don't have enough money to pay your coaches. You don't have enough money to pay off like the percentage of the taxes. Look, like if you go to the States and like you get a shot at fighting at UFC, like you're gonna get your belt, your contracts. So let's say you fight for 12-12, but you make 12 because that's show money. That's just a show. If you win, you make another $12,000. That's amazing. Now imagine you lose, then they have to tax you at the border. So that like they'll probably have like $3,000-4,000, or maybe somewhat 3,000. There you have to pay 10% to your gym or your coaches. Then you have your nutrition. Then you have your osteopath because you probably got hurt. So you're out of there with what, maybe 5K like left in your pocket, and your plane ticket, which was paid by the UFC. Okay, wow, yippity doo dah. You get it?
It's crazy, and
That's horrible.
yeah, and if you get hurt, basically the commission, the athletic commission, doesn't let you fight before another 2 months, maybe. So now you're hurt, you got to get another fight, and you have $1,000 left. You got to last it like it's crazy.
Well, look, they should, my opinion, like they should have insurance for the fighters in case they get hurt. That's the only thing like I'm preaching. Like the rest of it, like I couldn't get in deeper into it because I'm not informed of it and I didn't study into it enough like to make any comments. But what I would give on my opinion was like the least a fighter could get once he signs a UFC contract is health and benefits in case you get hurt in training camp, in case you get hurt during the fight or after the fight. Well, you need, like you're a professional fighter, so you need a health and benefits. Like that's the least like they can do. No, like the NFL have it, the NFL have it. Like everybody has it.
Yeah, there were rumors about the fighters union, and I don't know where it's at right now, but yeah, I mean, at least have coverage for insurance. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, going back to Jake Paul, I heard Bellemere. She's been asked, "Do you think? Do you consider him a fighter?" He's like, "No," and she basically said something that was so smart. She put it in such a succinct terms. She said, "Have you ever seen a guy who never played football go into an NFL and play some games? That never happened. So why is this person who never trained, never been, he doesn't have 100 amateur fight, he's just coming in, but it's different, and I think in 2022, like Jay Park made over $30 million, and it was like it's such a lucrative thing to get attention. So it really is an attention economy.
It's ridiculous money. It's called stupid money. But like when people can make that type of money, they're very good businessmen. They're amazing in the entertainment business. They got that. They got that secret that nobody understood, like how to work it. So he's very good at it. Look, like I give him all the respect in the world, like for that. But at the end of the day, you got to look at the guys which grind every fucking day. That they want to become the best in the world, and it's hard work, it's dedication. But then comes the day that you become that professional fighter, and you need those health benefits because you're gonna raise a family, because you're gonna wanna retire like in your early 40s or even late 30s. You need health and benefits.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's up? Well, look, like I'm going to present you X. Xavier, like is a two-time champion of the world. Like,
hey, Xavier. How's it going?
How's it going, boss? You good?
Yeah, of course. That's great.
Champion of the world 2 times, and he's fighting on August 25th.
Oh, nice. At what weight?
He's the bantamweight champion.
Bantamweight. Okay, nice. I see. I saw a podcast he did not too long ago. He was fighting in UAE.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
So now, like, he's going back like to the UAE, and he's gonna do it again. Like he chose to fight in UAE and not in the UFC yet. I guess it's due to pay grade. Like I guess like they treat the fighters better. They probably give them more opportunities with money and stuff like that. Because a lot of guys from Montreal, like I can say, we're talented. Like we got a lot of fighters, but they don't choose to go to they don't choose, excuse me, to go to UFC. They choose to go to ONE FC. They choose to go to KSW. They choose to go to UAE.
Mhm.
I trained a warrior called Roberto Soldic, which was a two-time KSW welterweight and middleweight champion of the world, and he recently got signed with the ONE FC. So he'll be fighting pretty soon. But like I was with him for three consecutive camps, like in Montreal, like at TriStar headquarters when he was in the KSW. And Roberto Soldic, like if you don't like, you should Google him and check him out. Like
Yeah,
he got signed for ONE. Like he says he always wanted to go to the UFC, but the thing is, like what probably convinced him was the pay grade. Probably convinced him was ONE is about the fight, it's not about the brand.
absolutely. I mean, there's opportunity in so many different areas. I mean, you see Cowboy Cerrone doing grappling match, and athletes have more option now. I mean, back then it was like what Bellator and UFC, maybe PFL, but now it's
Yeah, sorry, like I forgot about the PFL, which was the World Series of Fighting back then.
yeah, exactly. I
Like it's
mean,
respectful.
I mean that for a second, like this, it's such a crazy thing to do a tournament. I don't know. It's like a side topic, but imagine fighting like three times in a night. Such a
That
crazy
was
thing.
how it back in the day, man. Like it was the K1, like the K1 World Grand Prix was like that in the day. Like you had to fight three times in one night.
Yeah,
Like the Pride FC days. Like that's what it was. I think even Bellator did something like that. Like with the heavyweights when Daniel Cormier became champion, or was it Fedor, or was it Daniel Cormier? I think it was Daniel Cormier. I'm not sure. Like I totally
um,
forgot.
I mean, there's always these interesting. I don't know if you call it matchup or you know, like for example, one FC just did well not recently, but they did a match between Rotang and Demetrius Johnson. It was like one round was Muay Thai, one round was MMA, and the other was like
Look,
alternating. That's it.
it's funny, it's entertaining. It's something that they're trying out.
Mhm.
I don't really. Okay, it's entertaining, like for the spectator. I don't really like that
No, you don't
because,
like it?
like, as a coach, like I find it would be a headache for me. But as a spectator, yeah, like it would be fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have a guy like Demetrius Johnson, who was at one point like a pound for pound, just maybe greatest fighter. I mean, in that roster, he
Yep,
was exchanged from the UFC to ONE FC, and he's still one of the most dangerous fighters at his weight class.
he's a
And
legend. Like Demetrius Johnson put that weight class on the map. I met Demetrius Johnson at UFC 186 in Montreal when I was with John McDessie, and I met Coach Matt Hume and gentleman, and that's another warrior like from back in the day. Like Matt Hume fought in the UFC like in the early days. So I knew that Demetrius Johnson was amazing. Like he was a legend being born, and nobody ever gave him cred. And even the UFC, I think, like made a mistake by not putting him on a pedestal.
yeah, I mean, they have Cejudo from that you
Yeah,
know from like the glory of Demetrius. I
yeah,
mean, two fights with him now. You have this gold medalist, one of the
yeah.
youngest for the U.S. Winning the Olympics, and you can build up that stars and like see what you can do with Aljamain and that division. But absolutely, I mean, I think about like Robbie Lawler just retired, and it's just
Yeah,
like these guys that for us for our generation, it's like they're legend, and we see
of
them
course.
retire, we see them like going about it, and we're like, man, your fight were just amazing, and like if you have like 3 years left, I mean, like I'll enjoy it, and if not, if you're getting into the UFC Hall of Fame, well, hats off to you, and
Yeah,
good
it's
retirement.
it's crazy that you talk about that because by you mentioning that, like it makes me realize how fucking old I am
I
now
know.
because I was because I met guys like Chuck Liddell. I was in the gym when Rory was a kid, and Rory McDonald came to TriStar, and they were sparring with George St. Pierre and prepping Rory to go into the UFC. And I've seen Rory McDonald grow up alongside Firas Zahabi, alongside all the sparring partners at TriStar Gym. So not only did I get to know Rory McDonald as a warrior and a fighter, but I got to know him like as a brother, a husband, a friend. So as a person. So when you see a guy like Rory McDonald grow up like in the gym and become the legend that he is, he didn't get the praise that he was supposed to get. Like he didn't get goodbye. Like I would have put Rory McDonald like in the UFC Hall of Fame too, alongside Bobby Lawler, because of that epic fight that he did.
What a
And
it
he
is,
needed to run it.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those the Stephen Bonner and the Griffin fight, or what Lawler and Rory is just one of those legendary fights where it's like that's Hall of Fame. That's like all over it. But
Of course.
it's
And
interesting
it's
because there's this portion of fans that that's been here for 10 years. Maybe we have experience. Maybe we competed, and these new fans, these casual fans, like kind of in a bad way, but it's also in like it's normal. You coming up, you don't really know, and but
Well, look, like nowadays, what's the positive is that we have a lot more casual fans that are awake to seeing what's going on in mixed martial arts, and it could be annoying, like for the OGs, like for the real martial artists like you that train every day and that they go into there, they fight. So then, like, you get a casual which probably only trains on weekends or
yeah,
probably once in a blue, and then and and then he criticizes people like yourself for that dedication, you know. So I see a negative and I see a positive to it, but
yeah,
like there's always two sides to it. But I understand you because when I see this and I hear this, I'm there. Come on, man! Like you have no clue what these guys. It's not only about gym, like it's about their lifestyle. Listen, like guys which lived out of 2.5 apartments that had to choose between their rent money and their grocery money, and for years, like they used to come to the gym and they used to live like it's a hard life, man. I'm gonna be a fighter. Then from home, like they made it, but through all the struggle and through all the weekends that they didn't go out, that they didn't have girlfriends, they didn't go see their friends, they had to choose between their grocery money or their rent money. They got injured, like they did it on their own, and then they finally one day like they made it big and like, they made a bit of money.
yeah,
So it's like I respect that fucking trajectory more than a YouTube star. Like let's
yeah.
say, yeah, he's good at it, but I won't respect that. It's like okay, like he gets a lot of views on YouTube, but that's for me is bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, if you do it for your whole life, it's not a game. It's not a
Fuck,
business. It's really your passion and your job. Basically, you're in there 6 hours a day. You're doing conditioning. You're hurt, and then you're really putting it on the line on Saturday night. And I mean, as a casual, it's like
yeah.
you're looking at something and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get interested in that, and I don't know. It's like,
Well, look, like the first question that I ask people that come and see me often at the gym, they go, Coach, like, I want to fight. I said, are you about that life? So then,
yeah,
what? And then,
yeah,
no, no, your phone, your girls, your family outings, you're going out. Forget about that shit, bro. Like,
yeah,
you got gym, you're going to get hurt. Make friends with your osteopath, make friends with pain,
yeah.
and make friends with sweat and blood.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like these documentaries that show like the behind the scenes. It's crazy. Like imagine you win the fight, but you're busted. Like maybe like orbital bone fractures. You
Yep.
have these mild concussions.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like you're in your room, you're in the dark for 3 days at least, and you
Yeah.
can't. It's like,
Well, well, look, like I think like you're gonna find this funny. Try explaining this on Christmas dinner around the table of all your cousins, aunts, and uncles saying,
yeah,
"What do you do for a living?"
yeah, exactly.
So try explaining
Yeah,
that.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's different, but it's such a modern thing now. Like
Yeah,
I look at the UFC Performance Institute, and it's just like this state of the art facility,
yeah.
which fighters all around the world can come in as a UFC fighters and get the best treatment. And nowadays, it's not like you get rocked in sparring and then you go back in the same day. It's more like, okay, let's take some time. Let's, yeah. I mean, dude, nutrition. Like these guys back then, they didn't like, and I'm not necessarily talking about like in the 1990s when the UFC was created, but like even early 2000, these guys were not on point. But now it's just different. Now you're talking about hydration. You're talking about all of these components of the fight game that are just dialed in. Even
Fighters to
amateurs.
me are some of the best. They're
Yeah.
some of the best fighters in the world because of training, hydration, nutrition, the people that surround them. Now they're known to be the best athletes in the world. Back in the day, like it was like you're a fighter, like you're a warrior, you're tough. I mean, you're gonna get hit. You give hits, you get hit. But
Yeah.
nowadays, like, some of the best athletes on the planet because they train,
Mhm.
they eat right, they rest right. Like they have people that it's like a robot. It's like you're
Yeah.
a machine. So
Yes.
now I find that fighters are the best athletes.
And then it's also the science of it. Like there was a lot of myth, like you shouldn't lift weight as a boxer. Will make you slow, the muscle and everything. But strength and conditioning, it came from such a long way that now we know like you should incorporate that and mobility and all these stuff that 30 years ago wasn't a thing basically. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had a question about a talented prospect basically. When you see someone who's coming up, he's super talented. Everything you say, first try, he's good. Like, how do you work with that person? And on the contrary, how do you work with like an accountant who just wants to learn the art or maybe get in shape, like learning the technique and all the biomechanics, like because you do it for 30 years, it's just like instinctual for you. But how do you
Yeah.
convey that information?
Well, how do we incorporate that? First things first, dedication. Like if you're gonna come there and you're talented, and I've seen a lot of fighters which were talented, but they don't they don't use they don't dedicate themselves enough. Like they rely too much on talent, but talent could bring you so far, and then hard work will bring you to that extra level. So I've seen a lot of talented fighters like in the amateur realm which have kicked everybody's ass. Why? Because of their talent. So they won the amateur titles. But as soon as they leveled up and they went to the professional ranks, everybody's fucking talented like in the professionals. So now what makes that difference? What come in? What makes that difference is hard work and dedication. So everybody in the pro ranks is talented. Like I can guarantee you that. Everybody's talented. But then if you're gonna rely on talent like in the pro ranks, you ain't going nowhere because then that's where you got to put in the work. Stay in the gym, the first one in, the last one out. When
Mhm.
you're in the pro ranks, like you got to train smart and train hard at the same time. And if you got talent, well, that's a gift from God too. That's amazing. But if you're gonna only rely on talent, you ain't going nowhere. Like you might become pro, but you're just gonna become, oh well, that was the good guy. But
Yeah,
you're not more to that.
yeah, you have to put in the work. There's no shortcut really. Like as an MMA fighter, you can't just have a good base in striking and then think you can do MMA. You gotta wrestle, you gotta grapple, you gotta do everything if you want to go to MMA. And
Yeah, like
talent.
look, like if people like they do it half-assed because they're weekend warriors, well, good on them because they have a story to tell at the office.
Yeah,
But if you become a fucking professional fighter, you have to incorporate that in your everyday life. You have to eat proper. You have to sleep proper. You have to have a, a sane life. Like you have to treat your body like it's your church. Like your
yeah.
body's your church, man.
They say, and I really agree with that. Like soccer is a sport, but fighting is a discipline. Like BJJ is a discipline. It's not.
You don't play fighting, bro. You who know that.
Yeah. I mean, like if you see an athlete, you see like fans in the stands, you think, yeah, that's a sport. But the lifestyle, it's like you're at night, you're sleeping super early, and everything's just very disciplined. And that's why
Well,
parents. That's why
it's
parents. Yeah.
it's such a misconception on people, like on everyday people. Fighters are the most disciplined people that you'll ever meet. You know why? We don't smoke, we don't drink, we try to eat proper, and we train 5 to 6 times a day.
Mhm.
Sorry, a week. But the thing, when you live this and this earns you money, this pays your groceries, pays your mortgage, it feeds your family, you have to live like practically a fucking monk. Like
Mhm.
you have to be, very disciplined with your own self. And then there's people that have that misconception thinking we're bums, like thinking we're criminals, we're animals, we're this, that. But people don't know this. Like a fighter is going to be the most relaxed guy in the room when you're going
Yeah.
to go to the restaurant because he does this every day. Like he gets pummeled every fucking day.
Yeah.
So we don't get pummeled again. Like we don't like to get punched every. So when restaurant or when we go to a family gathering, don't talk to me about fighting. Like
Yeah.
talk about anything else but that.
Yeah.
You know, people don't get that.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like it's such a good for a person, and like we were talking, like it changes your life. Like that's the reason why parents they put their kids in martial arts, and
Yeah,
they're like, oh well, Johnny's like super focused now, and he's doing his homework and everything like that, and
it's the best medication on the planet. Like instead of giving them all the pills on the planet, like you send them to an MMA school, you send them to a boxing school, you send them to a Muay Thai school, BJJ, just send them and do a combat sport. Trust me, like your kid will come back like 100% focused.
yes, and it's also the community aspect of it. Like it's a it's a lifelong relationship, but it's also like every Tuesday I see Samantha and I see John, and like we're working on these techniques and everything like that, and we're getting better together. And Friday night we might go out together, eat a good meal, and
Yeah,
it's a community.
hey, look, like you work with Sam Stout or Chris Hordecki, or like are you with those guys or?
Right now I'm not training anymore. I'm not in the circuit.
Okay,
I was in Gatineau, so my striking coach was Marek Wallace,
okay.
and my BJJ coach was Dan Gilmet, so black belt in BJJ. He had a gym in Gatineau, but that gym exactly was sending a lot of fighters. Maybe you know Zach Powell.
Sorry.
Zach Powell, he was fighting at that local promotion. I forget the name right now, but the same one of Charles Jourdain before he came to the UFC.
Yeah, like it was the TKO, right?
Yeah, TKO
TKO.
exactly. So Zach Powell was fighting in TKO. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
But
look,
right
like
now,
you guys, Toronto. I'm like you guys have Zuka Joseph Valtellini. I mean, that was a Glory kickboxing champion.
yeah, Valpanini, dude, that guy is like a monster.
Just
I
one of
mean,
the best on the planet. Just
it's
talks about it.
crazy. It's crazy. So many talents in Canada.
Joe,
It's crazy. And they just had that UFC card with Jasmine
look,
and
look, it's amazing. Like people don't understand how much legends we have in Ontario, Canada, Quebec. We have great fighters, boxers, kickboxers, BJJ guys, mixed martial artists. We have legends, but yet we don't appreciate them.
yeah,
So every one of us that has a chance to leave the country or make our living with fighting, coaching, we end up leaving. You
yeah,
know, like we have Joseph Valtellini, which was the Glory kickboxing champion of the world, and he's in Toronto.
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that some of the people know about it, but not a lot of people. Then
No,
there's Sam Stout, which was UFC fighter. Chris Horodecki. Then there was Mark Hominick, which was another legend, like in Ontario,
yeah,
and on and on.
yeah,
And he Quebec, do not make me get started here. I mean, with Quebec, it's unbelievable. The boxers we have, the kickboxers, the karate guys, the BJJ guys, but radio silence. Nobody
Yeah,
talks about us like in. It's thanks to guys like you, Ahmed, that like you put us out there so people actually know about us,
yes,
including the
absolutely.
coaches.
And no, it's like those guys like at the boxing champion, like uh, not Butler, but from Montreal, and like Anthony Stevenson, and there was a couple, like, but
Well, look, like there was Jean Pascal, there was Adonis Stevenson, there was Lou Chanbute,
yeah,
there, there was the Grant brothers, which were legendary boxers here in Montreal and champions, and my personal friend are Turo Gatti, which is a legend
yeah,
in the boxing world and Montreal.
mhm.
But radio silence, and yes, I know, like years ago, but these guys are in the boxing realm and combat sports will never be forgotten. Never. And now including David Loazo, Ivan Menchivar, George St. Pierre, Carlos Newton, there was Dennis Kang, I mean that's from Canada too. You know, like I can name you dozens of names that come from us. And we're warriors.
But the thing is, it's the ability to be so big in the niche,
Yeah.
but then be completely unknown outside of it. Like martial art is, it's even though there's millions of fans around the world, it's still a niche kind of. And this do you know Bill Burr, the comedian?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like he is
I,
brilliant, man.
I listen to him every day, but he said he can do a show like MSG. He can sell out Madison Square Garden. Like he gets out three quarters, like three streets over, and he can just walk over with like sunglasses. Like he's not like,
I
he's
feel
still
you.
a superstar, but it's crazy.
Well,
And I think
it's yeah, like it's just crazy how like the majority of the population are not into sports here. Like I know countries where my partner here, Xavier Aloui, which is a two-time bantamweight champion in the UAE, goes over to let's say Chechnya. He goes over to Abu Dhabi, and he can't walk the streets.
yeah, I
Like
know it's crazy.
people want him to shake his hand, and people want him to sign the caps. Yet he's in Quebec, and he's not known.
And
And
he's
there's
from here.
it's
Yeah,
fucking sad, if you ask me.
yeah. But it happens so much. Like this Angla, the heavyweight champion in ONE FC.
Yes, like the Kill Cliff, I mean, with Henry Hooft.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that camp's crazy. But yeah, he was saying like in Myanmar, you can't see the ground. It's like
Yeah.
Michael Jackson just arrived, and it's crazy. In the U.S., maybe he's in Florida. His camp is there. Maybe
Okay.
he's gonna get recognized. And
Yeah.
Florida, I think it's coming up as a big fight,
It is
big fight hub.
like I sent a couple of my guys over there, like at Kill Cliff, which before was, if I remember right,
Hard
what was
knocks.
it called with Henry Hooft? Like before it became Kill Cliff.
Yeah,
It was another name, but I sent a couple of my fighters there, and like they went there and they treat their fighters great. You know, like they get them a room, and they train 3 times a week. Sorry, 3 times a day.
mhm.
And the thing is that they make them sign a contract saying that if they're there, like they gotta go there and they gotta show up to every class.
Yeah,
So, like I sent 2 or 3 of my guys there, and they said, "Hey, like it's a fighter's lifestyle."
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really a commitment. Like all these guys from Europe coming into American Top Team or a TriStar or a Killcliff. It's like I'm leaving my family to be the professional fighter that I want to be, and
Yeah,
it's really. I
it's
mean,
amazing.
yes, absolutely. I mean, we're coming in on an hour. I know you're a busy guy. We can end it there, but it would be a pleasure to talk to you another time. I mean,
Sure, of
yeah,
course. Look, like no problem. Like if ever like you want to do it again, like you let me know, and I could even get you a special guest. You know, like I could bring in a special guest too.
absolutely, absolutely. That's great. Thank you, Sandro. It's been a blast. Like, really, thank you. And
Thank listen, like you're always welcome here at the TriStar West Island. Like we're gonna relocate. Like I'll let you in on it. You come down and see us. You can do your interviews here too, and then you bring it back to Toronto.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, man. All right.
All right, brother. Like
See you.
it's
Have a nice day.
bye bye.